We are live.
Yay! It is Friday. I feel better from my COVID experience. Dealing with a bit of a headache, but all in all, still a lot better than I was. From my COVID experience, dealing with a bit of a headache, but sorry.
Echo, echo, echo.
Yeah, I always run
Yeah,
the live stream
sure.
just to make sure there's no problems.
Well,
But
plus
feeling
you may have
better.
to kill off some. We have to kill off some spam bots occasionally too.
Yeah, that's true. Uh,
Time for more to
but
kills.
it's Friday, so yay! There's that. Davos won. It's definitely a lot longer than the last Arya chapter, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's
Shout
just,
out to
it's
the Lady Thistle, Lizzie, the Valonqar, Swagger Dagger, Austin, Flowers, everybody just saying hey. Uh, but if you've watched any of these, we start with the brains of the operation, which is Richard, and he will say what he saw in the chapter, and then I'll jump in.
hey. You
Hey,
may have
guys.
forgotten to tweet, but Lizzie didn't forget about us.
Well, I was talking to her. She actually contacted me asking.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, cool.
yeah. So that worked out pretty good. Um, then I'll jump into my stupid stuff. So take it away, Richard.
Um, do we introduce ourselves?
Oh no, yeah, like I said, a headache. I am old new dude. He is
Richard York, Ash's trueborn son. All
sorry.
right, let's do this. All right. The morning air was dark with the smoke of burning gods. They were all afire now, maid and mother, warrior and smith, the crone with her pearl eyes, and the father with his gilded beard, even the stranger, carved to look more animal than human. The old dry wood and countless layers of paint and varnish blazed with a fierce, hungry light. Heat rose shimmering through the chill air. Behind, the gargoyles and stone dragons on the castle walls seemed blurred, as if Davos were seen through a veil of tears, or as if the beasts were trembling, stirring. An ill thing, Allard declared, though at least he had the sense to keep his voice low. So the beast stirring ties into the future references to the castle waking as a living dragon.
Yeah,
Um, actually, the whole concept of these gods is that they're wood that's been painted over. So it's sort of like the old gods. I keep a lot of set for this. Listening, this is haha same. So um, the, that in a sense, it's like the new gods are like the old gods just painted over, right? Because they're wood that's been had paint slapped on it to reimagine it, if you will. Um,
right.
and Allard's ill thing reminds me very much of Garland in Tyrion's eighth chapter in Storm. Tyrion's eyes were on fire. He dabbed at his face with the back of the sleeve and tried to blink the world back into clarity. That was ill done, Your Grace, he heard Sir Garland say quietly. Right?
That,
So we've got the same ill. We've got the same quiet voice. We've got the same kind of tears kind of imagery as well. So the whole thing just sort of seems to tie together, doesn't it?
yeah. That first sentence, the morning air was dark with smoke of burning gods. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I got that the burning of the gods will bring the dawn. Um,
It, it
possibly the
also
burning of the
also
weirwood.
the dragons are gods too, right? So burning
Yeah.
gods could be also be seen as dragons. Smoke of burning gods could be seen as the smoke of the fire breathing dragons.
Yeah, I was on the burning of the weirwoods would bring the
Sure,
dawn.
sure.
But yeah,
I,
it
I
goes
think
it
we'll
goes
get,
a couple of
and I think
ways.
we'll talk about that. We might talk about this again here too. I think.
Okay.
Um, they had overturned the altars, pulled down the statues, and smashed the stained glass with war hammers. Septon Barre, could only curse them, but Sir Hubbard Rampton led his three sons to the Sept to defend their gods. The Ramptons had slain four of the Queen's men before the others overwhelmed them.
Yeah.
Afterward, Gunster Sunglass, mildest and most pious of lords, told Stannis he could no longer support his claim. Now he shared a sweltering cell with the Septon and Sir Hubbard's two surviving sons. The other lords had not been slow to take a lesson. So these men will be burned on Stannis' orders, no matter what the wikis claim. We've discussed this before, but Stannis is supposed to be doing everything the Mad King does, burning his own hand, having his fire sorcerer advisor kill someone expecting a champion, and ordering politically untenable executions. George makes us blame the foreign witch and the wife without the political power of the patriarchy for the actions of the patriarch. I'm ashamed to admit I fell for it initially, when the whole point is Stannis is responsible, but people will always blame the powerless females.
Exactly. I fell for it too. Yeah.
Yeah. He had seen the maester slip something into the wine cup, Poison. What else could it be? He drank a cup of death to free Stannis from Melisandre, but somehow her god shielded her. He would gladly have killed the Red Woman for that. Yet what chance would he have where a maester of the Citadel had failed? So this does imply that he had to figure this out, but I still believe Melisandre and Stannis likely were informed by Maester Pylos, possibly while the crowd was assembling, with Davos one of the later attendees who missed the discussion.
Yeah. Well, I got that down for it could be three possible things. Her guard shielded her is that she is what she wants you to think. She could possibly already be dead, and then the where we're at is that she already knew and then took it to
right. And we also know that she looks for her own threats to herself in the fires too, and so the clear, one of the interpretations is that she just saw it in her flames because that's what she looks for, and that's certainly a reasonable interpretation. We've certainly been given to believe that as well.
Yeah, we passed the part where she started chanting around the fire.
Could be. I don't know. I think she does that every time. So
it says, she did it she did it 3 times and spoke 3 different languages. First came the speak of Ashari, then High Valyrian, then the Common, and she does it in the language of Ashai because that's her natural language. That is her go-to. She does it first because in her mind she thinks of it as first. She is from Ashai. That's where she's from. To start with, then the High Valyrian for the House of R'hllor, and then the Common for the people of Westeros.
Yep.
Not that has anything to do with anything.
Yep. Something Barre had once told Davos how they'd been carved from the mass of the ships that had carried the first Targaryens from Valyria. So ships turning into gods reminds me of Naga's ribs, which is the sea dragon, which has been turned into weirwood trees. The weirwood trees represent Asherah as the tree of life, and earlier Asherah was the sea dragon. So for more on Asherah, see Triple Targaryen episode 1.
I'm gonna get a shirt with a couple of those C Triplet Targaryens episode 1, C Triplet Targaryens episode 3. I'm gonna make those shirts and bring them to the Ice of FireCon.
Is she from Rashai originally? Melanie Lot 7 always makes me wonder. Two, I see the shirt. Okay.
We have no idea where she is from, but the fact that she doesn't speak the High Valyrian for R'hllor first makes me automatically think that speaking the language of Ashai is her natural language, is her go-to language.
She's certainly been to Ashai for an extended period of time and studied there, right?
Right. But she's a red priestess, so for that ceremony, it should have been the High Valyrian for the religion of R'hllor.
Well, but with Lizzie's point, she's not from Ashai originally because nobody's from Ashai originally, right? They specifically tell us that you can't grow up there, that children can't survive there.
Right, but that's just what made me think of.
Sure, no, I got it. I mean, she's clearly been there a long time. She studied there a long time, but
she went to Ashai first, and then the religion of R'hllor.
Okay, that's I kind of thought they may have sort of assigned her to learn that, but
I don't know, man. It just made me think of it
because it feels like she was a kid when she was given to the temple, and like you're not a kid when you go to Ashai. So that's where I'm at on it. But like I said, as we always say, these books are deliberately ambiguous.
I mean, I can definitely be reading a whole lot more into it than is there.
Well, I do think that she's probably basically clearly thinks of herself as from Ashai, right? And that's probably not because she was born there, because you probably can't be born there, but it probably means that she's lived there for an extended period of time to the point where she feels like that's her home, that's where she's from.
That makes more sense. Sorry.
No problem. It's good to talk through these things, right?
Yeah. That's what we're here.
Really ambiguous, just like my morals.
We were talking about it the other day, man. You don't do book clubs with people that keep the exact same opinion of you. You want the discussion to work through certain problems that like right now I can cross out that she's from Ashai, because I don't know what I was thinking of when that's just what popped in my head. But I said it yesterday on Twitter. A conversation that we are having will bring up a thought that has nothing to do with the conversation that we're having, but has to do with a situation that I didn't even know I was going to be contemplating. I mean, you never know where the conversation is going to take you.
Absolutely. The mother seemed almost to shudder. Oh, by the way, Lizzie, we're all morally great characters. The mother seemed almost to shudder as the flames came licking up her face. A long sword had been thrust through her heart, and its leather grip was alive with flames. So we've got the mother shuddering with the long sword. So this is, of course, this is Lightbringer. So this, or at least what they'll claim is Lightbringer. So this is some really niceness in this Lightbringer symbolism.
Yeah.
My grandsons will joust with theirs, though, and one day their blood may wed with mine. In time, my little black ship will fly as high as Valerian's seahorse or Celtigar's red crabs. So it's interesting how after a few generations, nobody cares. And that's true, everywhere basically, right?
Yeah.
Dark smoke rose, twisting and curling. When the wind pushed it toward them, men blinked and wept and rubbed their eyes. Allard turned his head away, coughing and cursing. A taste of things to come, thought Davos. Many and more would burn before this war was done. So this is sad but true, and some great foreshadowing of the battle to come in this book. In ancient books of Ashai, it is written that there will come a day after a long summer when the stars bleed and the cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world. In this dread hour, a warrior shall draw from the fire a burning sword, and that sword shall be Lightbringer, the red sword of heroes. And he who clasps it shall be Azor Ahai come again, and the darkness shall flee before him. She lifted her voice so it carried out over the gathered host. Azor Ahai, beloved of R'hllor, the warrior of light, the son of fire, come forth. Your sword awaits you. Come forth and take it into your hand. Stannis Baratheon strode forward like a soldier marching into battle. So this really does sound like claiming the sword takes place first. Other than Dawn, is that ever how these things work? It's like anyway.
Also, I know it's been said before, and I definitely can't remember where it's been said. The choosing of the name for House Stark being one letter off from the word star. Is it possibly?
Yeah, this is in the Stark that brings the dawn by LML, right? It's a.
Is that what it was?
And it's so much better if John is Dane and Stark, right?
Well, instead of it being the star bleeds, it would be the Stark, the underneath the bleeding star.
And he also talks about dark stain. He talks about day star, right? If you drop the consonants from the words, then it becomes day star. If you swap if you spoonerism it, it becomes dark stain. So anyway, he talks about all that stuff.
Yeah.
Under the sea, smoke rises and bubbles, and flames burn green and blue and black. Patchface sang somewhere. I know. Oh. Green seems sort of out of place here in terms of the dragons. So I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what this is, but or maybe maybe blue. It's talking about the sea kind of represents the white cream smoke. I don't know. It sure sounds like it's talking about the dragons, but anyway.
It is extremely hard to figure out what the hell he's talking about on anything he says. I mean, it's
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Behold, a sign was promised, and now a sign is seen. Behold, Lightbringer, Azor Ahai has come again. All hail the warrior of light. All hail the son of fire. So the son of the Lord of light would be Jesus symbolism.
Yeah.
Which could point to John, I suppose. Should I speak the words as well, Davos wondered? Do I owe Stannis that much? Is this fiery god truly his own? His shortened fingers twitched. Stannis peeled off the glove and let Stannis. Is this really what it says? Oh yeah, okay.
Yes, the glove.
There's a paragraph break there. Sorry. Stannis peeled off the glove and let it fall to the ground. The gods of the pyre were scarcely recognizable anymore. The head fell off the smith with a puff of ash and embers. So his fingers twitched, and then Stannis discarded his glove. So I think our author rejects this. I think that's rejecting the idea that you should join in and so forth.
Yeah.
The Red Sword of Heroes looks a proper mess. The whole concept does seem a bit messy.
Yeah. Well, I
It wasn't.
mean, it's the same trick that Thoros Amir uses with his sword. The sword that Stannis plucks is green flamed. I mean, it's dragon fire. It's an illusion. It's a trick
Yeah, illusion
for the
of
masses.
wildfire, basically. Yep.
Yeah, wildfire. Yeah.
Glamour. It was an ill thing to burn the seven. When did you grow so devout? Davos said. What does a smuggler's son know of the doings of gods? I'm a knight's son, father. If you won't remember, why should they? So this is a brilliant observation that Davos's own prejudices are holding him back, right? That we do that to ourselves. That the people who've grown up in a society, whether that's misogynistic or white supremacist or whatever, that they apply those own labels to themselves and hold themselves back sometimes.
Yeah, well, he's another character that has a really good soul, like Davos, that his preconceived notions of something is Sander Clegane. His preconceived notions of knights aren't worthy of being knights type situation determine how that character thinks about themselves.
Yeah, yep. And people do that in their own world, and
yeah,
I think even those of us who are privileged white males, we still have a tendency to sometimes view ourselves as being less than the elites and so forth. Across the noisy common room, Salador Saan sat eating grapes from a wooden bowl. When he spied Davos, he beckoned him closer. Sir Knight, come sit with me. Eat a grape. Eat two. They are marvelously sweet. Lyseni was a sleek, smiling man whose flamboyance was a byword on both flamboyance and bi there, interesting. It was a byword on both sides of the narrow sea. Today he wore a flashing cloth of silver with dagged sleeves so long the ends of them pooled on the floor. His buttons were carved jade monkeys, and atop his wispy white curls perched a jaunty green cap decorated with a fan of peacock feathers. Davos threaded his way through the tables to a chair. In the days before his knighthood, he had often bought cargoes from Salador Saan. Lyseni was a smuggler himself, as well as a trader, a banker, a notorious pirate, and the self-styled Prince of the Narrow Sea. So we meet Salador Saan.
There you go.
I don't know if he actually ever does anything to imply that he's bi, but sure, the interest of the flamboyance was a byword is it sure feels like he's kind of coding that, right?
He's definitely one of the more colorful characters in the story.
Oh yeah. Are you sure you will not have a grape? Children go hungry in the city, it is said. He dangled the grapes before Davos and smiled. It's ale I need, and news. The men of Westeros are ever rushing, complained Salador Saan. What good is this, I ask you? He who hurries through life hurries to his grave. I do like
that.
I
love that quote too. Just speaking of colorful characters, Salador Saan and Dario Naharis are both extremely colorful characters, and they're both extremely, or people are very fond of the theory that they are, in fact, two different people. You got the Davos as Euron, and you got the Salador Saan as what was it, Illyrio?
Illyrio.
Yeah, Illyrio. Yeah, sorry, I just popped in my head.
Yeah, Lizzie says, I think when you're Lysene, you don't need labels like bi and straight. They're all about the love. Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's probably just saying that's their culture.
When you put it down to like the Isle of Noth, that was it Mosandi is from, and then some of the summer islands are extremely free with love and don't put labels on anything.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense to me. The dwarf has chased off the lout who ruled the gold cloaks and put in his place a knight with an iron hand. No marriage, no bastards. Yeah. I mean, the whole concept of bastardry and obsession with paternity is just a construct of society, right?
Yeah. Well, I've said that before. I mean, even the old gods or whoever's looking down, they don't really care who's married to who. It's the blood that as far as our story is concerned, with the blood magic and everything, it's the blood that matters. As long
Right,
as
right.
you,
And part of the point is that there absolutely have been bastards who sat on the throne, right? That probably lots of them.
yeah. Well, I mean, stop and think about it. I was talking about the other day about people jumping from towers and everything, but the son born to the Lord of Storm, or the Lord of Winterfell's daughter, that was stole by Abel, that son was a bastard, and then he was the new Lord of Winterfell. So back then, that would
Right,
have been the King of Winter, right?
right.
Or is it
Bail.
Lord? Yeah,
You
Bale,
said
Bale.
Abel, but you got Bail, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry, but
yeah, yeah. I
that
mean, assuming this story is true, which I think we probably should, right? Well, why
yeah,
not?
I would.
It's more fun if it is, so why not, right? Then yeah, I think it kind of goes to the concept that Mage Mormont is just declaring that her kids are legitimately her kids, and even though she doesn't need to have a husband and so forth. Of course, we think she does have a husband, that's Foreman, but
Well, I
anyway,
mean, it just makes me think that this society that we're reading about, maybe not in the past, have been so uptight about some of this stuff. Because you had the
sure.
was it the
Well,
first
and
night.
isn't that that we've been saying that's sort of the point of the histories, right? Is that the female equality was there, and it had to have been assumed, it was in the law and so forth. Right, exactly, Lizzie. Lizzie says, yeah, because they are tormented the white bulls. Yes, we definitely do. So it's interesting that we get this accurate. This kind of adds to the Illyrio concept, right? So the dwarf has chased off the loud who ruled the gold clothes and put in his place at night with an iron hand. So how did he accurately get information out of King's Landing about that, right? And so if he's able to go in some sort of secret hidden passage and up through the tunnels and so forth, and
Talk to
speaking of
very
Dorcas,
Dorcas, yeah, Dorcas.
yes, yes. So Dorcas seems likely to be his source, right? Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that he's got accurate information about what's going on in King's Landing is very interesting. How
Also,
well is this?
I know we have the Dorcas thing going on, but it might be worth watching Salador San in the future, uh, possibly having a disguised Varys with him at some point, or talking to him at some point later on in either Winds or Springs.
Yeah, yeah. How well is the city defended? The other shrugged. And then a little bit later, we get the brother Renly has left Highgarden with his fair young queen, his flowered lords and shining knights, and a mighty host of foot. He marches up your road of roses toward the very same great city we were speaking of. He takes his bride, the other shrugged. So twice the other shrugged. I'm not sure what the significance of shrugged is, but this is
Yeah.
probably not a coincidence that George is doing this.
Well, I need to look up exactly how many times "other" is spoken in his stories, because he uses it quite a bit.
Sure, and the shrugged is I don't know. I'm not sure why he's repeating that here. But I do think it's probably significant. And also, once again, Salvador Salon has extremely accurate information about things that are far away. It's very interesting. Because George usually does a good job of showing that people aren't getting reliable, accurate information, that they don't know the truth. Salvador Salon has only one version of what's going on, and it's the accurate version.
Right. It shows it quite well in Pate's chapter or prologue with the different information on the dragons.
Yeah, and we've seen it, we commented on it and talked about how it's interesting how he walks through the information spreading and the inaccuracies and so forth. And here, the information is spreading and it's accurate, and it's only one version of the story, and it's the right one.
Yeah, well, I mean, he uses disinformation to show, like what you're saying, when the information isn't wrong. It should be pointed out that the information isn't wrong. There's a reason why that Salvador San is getting the correct information. He wants to stand out.
Right. Salvador does mention the ship he took from Lear at some point as well. Remember, he got the giant chair? Yeah, absolutely. Right. That's part of what led to the theory is some people have that he's really just glamored Illyrio, or that Illyrio's glamored him, and that maybe Illyrio's isn't really that large, but needs to have that chair to maintain his appearance of being that large.
Well, the theory that Salvarsan and Illyrio are the same person, that Illyrio being so large is the glamour, has led some people to think that Wyman Manderley, his size, is actually a glamour to make people.
Well, it would certainly explain why Illyrio moves so well, right? I mean, we know he used to be a Rossi or a Bravo, and he moves like a Bravo, a trained Bravo, but maybe he's also not actually that heavy, right? For him
Right.
to move so gracefully.
Yeah, people
Wyman
see
for President House Manderley for life.
Wyman for president. Now she has some really cool crafts when it comes to the House Manderley. It's pretty cool.
Oh, great. So, speaking of accurate information, this next sentence. That sword was not Lightbringer, my friend. The sudden shift in subject left Davos uneasy. Sword? A sword plucked from fire, yes. Men tell me things. It is it is my pleasant smile. How shall a burnt sword serve Stannis? A burning sword, corrected Davos. Burnt, said Salazar Song. And be glad of that, my friend. Do you know the tale of the fortune of Lightbringer? I shall tell it to you. It was a time when darkness lay heavy on the world. To oppose it, the hero must have a hero's blade. Oh, like none that had ever been. So this sounds like Dany's promise to Jorah right here, right?
Yeah, exactly what I thought of.
And so, for 30 days and 30 nights, Azor Ahai labored sleepless in the temple, forging a blade in the sacred fires. Heat and hammer and fold. Heat and hammer and fold. Oh, yes, until the sword was done. Yet when he plunged it into water to temper the steel, it burst asunder. Being a hero is not for him to shrug and go in search of excellent grapes such as these. So again he began. The second time it took him 50 days and 50 nights, and this sword seemed even finer than the first. Azor Ahai captured a lion to temper the blade by plunging it through the beast's red heart. But once more the steel shattered and split. Great was his woe and great was his sorrow then, for he knew what he must do. 100 days and 100 nights he labored on the third blade, and as it glowed white hot in the sacred fires, he summoned his wife. Nissa, he said to her, that was her name, bare your breast and know that I love you best of all that is in this world. She did this thing. Why, I cannot say. And Azor Ahai thrust the smoking sword through her living heart. It is said that her cry of anguish and ecstasy left a crack across the face of the moon, but her blood and soul and her strength and her courage all went into the steel. Such is the tale of the forging of Lightbringer, the red sword of heroes. Now do you see my meaning? Be glad that it is just a burnt sword that his grace pulled from that fire. Too much light can hurt the eyes, my friend, and fire burns. So we're told Nissa did this, making me wonder if Ashara was willing and maybe even encouraging Ned to sacrifice his wife to be able to get the marriage alliance he needed to save the kingdom.
Well, I mean, I don't think she was with him and knew about it because they were arguing at River Run, and she would be back at the Wolf's Den.
Maybe. I mean, she may have been traveling with him. I mean, originally they were traveling to River Run for the wedding, right?
Yeah.
So they were on their way to River Run potentially when they would have been informed and probably, although, with the Fisherman's Daughter story, they probably were sleeping together for a while before they got close to River Run. So
yeah. The forging with the water, the lion, and then Nissa have led people to believe or think, well, this part here is it's like Davos or the Battle of Blackwater is. I mean, as soon as I was reading it, the first time I thought about it is we got the Battle of Blood coming up with Euron, and it's on water. And then he's going to King's Landing, and we have Cersei there, which is a lion.
Right.
What if the explanation for the forging of Lightbringer is actually what is going to happen to Euron? Possibly. I mean,
he likes to repeat these patterns over and over again in different ways, different people, symbolically versus literally, and so forth. So you could see You wouldn't be at all surprising if he's got multiple characters kind of going through a progression of some sort of sea battle combined with like some sort of Lannister battle.
Right. With her being the light of the West, had only been mentioned once in, I think, Game of Thrones itself, and then Aaron seeing the octopus guy sitting on the throne with the Lady of Light or whatever. I don't know. It just made me think of it for some reason. I'd never thought about it before. Never put it with Euron or anything like that.
I think the concept that there'll be a tempering through Lannister battle, and then and then a final sacrifice to be able to defeat the others.
You got tempering with the forces of the Arbor, then you got King's Landing, and then something else. It just makes me think that Azor Ahai is not the hero of this story. Azor Ahai is, especially if it's Euron, is as far from a hero as you could get. Just the people telling you about a hero must have a hero's blade. That's the unreliable narrator again, telling you that, hey, this is a hero, but you're not necessarily 100% guaranteed that it's going to be a hero. I mean,
but Davos says that I don't have the stuff to be a hero if it requires sacrificing my wife and so forth, right? But I do think that it could still be the case that there is this big blood sacrifice to save the world, and part of the reason I believe that is that I think LML's argument against it is actually kind of silly. So presumably he believes that the dragons are a key part. I mean, he talks about Dany being born to burn the others and so forth, right? So clearly he believes that a blood sacrifice to bring dragons back in the world was a necessary step to save the world, right? Sacrificing Mary Musdur against her will in order to hatch dragons was a necessary step. So claiming that the story isn't about that is kind of silly because it clearly is, right? That's one of the key ingredients. Most likely there'll be a similar sacrifice to raise Jon or to get him back in his body or to
the burning
of the others. However, maybe. But in some way, there's probably going to be some other blood sacrifice. Probably again a necessary step towards the story and towards saving the world. So the fact that there might be a final third blood sacrifice, saying that requiring a double blood sacrifice to save the world makes the story evil or bad is silly. And saying that 2 makes it good and 3 makes it bad is even sillier. So.
It's like everything else with the story. I swear there's times that I think George R. R. Martin wrote this story particularly to show us how bad we are because we're loving this story that has child brides, incest, murder, has all this stuff in it that you don't see in other fantasies, or you don't see as much of in other fantasies. And we, the reader, thousands upon thousands of readers, are loving it.
He successfully tricked at least the two of us, and probably most of the fandom, into believing that it was, Selyse and Melisandre's fault that Stannis was burning people, right?
Right.
And so he's doing these things, right? He's like manipulating you to do and he even, it's funny because people see all this time he does that in the history. Yeah, he knows what he's doing, Lizzie says. Yeah, exactly. And he knows that he successfully convinced the fandom to, in fact, Adam, what's his name? Adam, the guy with the best interpretation of A Dance with Dragons, of Dance is this guy Adam, right? Who's I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but anyway, his blog. What he talks about is he didn't figure out the book until he realized that George is deliberately trying to fool us. And once he looked at it in that lens, he was able to understand that Dario represents war, and that his Dar represents peace, and that the whole concept, and that he literally tells us that's what he's doing, and that Dany is correctly doing the whole marriage contract, pursuing peace excellently, and it's unfulfilling because it's more fulfilling to embrace war, and that's what the story is telling us, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah, and yes. He clearly has fooled people with that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes to burning Mir Mesdur, which we get a speech right there before, I think it's a chapter before, talking about why she did what she did, all the stuff the Dothraki did to her village and to her. Yeah. And we as a reader are realizing that for the first time, I mean, I don't blame Miriam Asdur. I've done the same damn thing. Uh, but we tend to, like, the very first time we see Ned, he chops a man's head off. We give
For,
characters that we like
yep,
passes on certain
yep.
things, and then characters that we don't like. Well, at the beginning of it, we don't like Sir Jamie, and he pushes the boy out a window. Well, I mean, then when it's pointed out later on, I think Gordon Greenhand does a really good job pointing it out later on. There's a reason he did what he did. He was
Sure.
protecting.
Although I don't really, I really blame him for killing Jory because that one is hard to defend, right? And the fact that
Well,
he
no,
doesn't
no,
even
no, no.
remember
He
the
doesn't kill Jory. He doesn't fight in the street.
he orders them to kill all of Ned's men.
Right.
So
I mean, he's a
that's like
dick.
saying that Joffrey doesn't kill Ned. Okay, he
Yeah.
gave the order to kill him, right?
Right.
So he killed Jory just like Joffrey killed Ned.
But there again, as the story progresses and we see more and more of Jamie's arc, then we go to now we're on
Yeah, no,
the Jamie
we're still on his
bandwagon.
side. Even
Yeah.
acknowledging that he did that, we still, I mean, well, people aren't who they used to be, and he's made a conscious decision.
Yes, and without a doubt,
Yes,
the blood is
yes,
on his hands.
we're all in his, we're all in hands, singular.
Well, I mean, it's like Danny can do no wrong, John can do no wrong. By now, Jamie can do no wrong. Sam can do no
John
wrong.
deserved it. John was properly executed for committing treason. Right? I mean, the reason John was executed was he committed treason. He chose to engage in the wars of the South as Lord Commander. He's basically flat out violating the oath of the Night's Watch, and they killed him because he's doing that, right? And the show didn't do that right? They wanted him to be pure and good and making all the decisions that the crowd would agree with, that people watching would agree with. They even have him be the one that wants to seal the tunnels when he's adamantly against that in the books and so forth, right? They just take all the complexity away.
Well, it's like he gets killed for the very exact same reason Garrett gets killed by Ned in the very first chapter. It's the exact same thing. Even though, I mean, we give him a pass because it's John and he got the bad letter. Don't get me wrong. I mean, this is a really good chapter.
And then people say that it's one of the big clues of Dany turning dark is that she executes the Sam's family, right? And but the thing is, the Tarleys are they specifically say that they won't accept her ordering them to go to the wall. So this is literally the same thing, right? This is literally the same thing that everyone does, right? They capture the people and they tell them you can go to the wall or be executed. Like, and people are like, oh, she's committing war crimes, and I'm like, what?
You can't send me to the wall, then okay, you die. Right. I mean,
right? Then you are now a deserter because I do have the power to send you to the wall, and you're choosing not to go, so you are a deserter of the Night's Watch. And what happens to deserters of the Night's Watch? They get killed, right? So apparently, we learn at the very first episode that John and Ned and Rob are the bad guys because they do the same thing.
The story has got so many ins and outs and ups and downs. It is freaking, especially as you get to the later reads, and you're like, man, I did not realize that the first time I read it, or oh my gosh, that just blew my mind. I never thought that John would have done something like that type situation. It's all the way through the entire books. It's a beautiful ride, without a doubt. Like I said, George is throwing fantasy in our face and making us tell on ourselves what we like and what we don't like, and pointing out things that we shouldn't like.
Right, and he gets us to he's so embraced, like you have to have been on Catelyn's side when she grabbed Tyrion the first time you read that. I mean, come on, you have to, or when the first time you saw it in the show, if you saw it in the show before you read it or whatever. But the point is, the first for many of us, the first several times, you're like, oh yeah, this is an epic moment. This is great, right? And it's embracing war, and it feels great, and it's a mistake. That's kind of the point, right?
For me, the books did not change until I started reading the books with a notepad or a notebook and a pencil, and we're looking line for line. All right, okay, Could that mean something else type situation? Oh, I remember hearing that before. Let me write that down. When the notebook happened is when the story charter started changing. Uh, so again, that was a big
Yep,
rant.
that's right. King Stannis is my god. He made me and blessed me with his trust. I will remember. So, will Saladin remember that? It's an interesting concept of. Anyway,
Yeah,
because he goes on and it asks him to leave Stannis, and so I guess he kind of doesn't remember in a sense, right?
yeah.
Anyway, Pylos, read it to him. Your Grace. The Maester took up one of the parchments and cleared his throat. All men know me for the trueborn son of Stephen Baratheon, Lord of Storm's End, by his lady wife Cassana of House Estermont. I declare upon the honor of my house that my beloved brother Robert, our late king, left no trueborn issue of his body, the boy Joffrey, the boy Tommen, and the girl Myrcella being abominations born of incest between Cersei Lannister and her brother Jaime the Kingslayer. By right of birth and blood, I do this day lay claim to the Iron Throne of the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros. Let all true men declare their loyalty, done in the light of the Lord, under the sign and seal of Stannis of House Baratheon, the first of his name, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar and the First Men, and Lord of the Seven Kingdoms. The parchment rustled softly as Pylos laid it down. Make it Sir Jaime the Kingslayer henceforth, Stannis said, frowning. Whatever else the man may be, he remains a knight. I don't know that we ought to call Robert my beloved brother either. He loved me no more than he had to, nor I him. A harmless courtesy, Your Grace, Pylos said. A lie. Take it out. So I do admire Stannis' honesty.
Yeah, when you're reading that, I automatically was thinking of the actual scene, and I know the actor that played Stannis Baratheon could not understand the character of Stannis Baratheon, but he did such a freaking good job of playing Stannis Baratheon. I hated seeing his character end in the show. I mean,
Yeah.
I know he didn't like the character, didn't understand it, but I think he did a really, really good job at it. Sorry.
Well, this like Thistle said, same. Once I started actually analyzing it, everything changed for me. Yeah.
Now, I put her down as in my top three people that study A Song of Ice and Fire. She's like top three as far as knowledge goes. Uh, Freaking brilliant. Your top
My
five.
liege. My liege, Pylos is pleasant enough, but I cannot see the chain about his neck without mourning for Maester Cresson. Is it his fault the old man died? Stannis glanced into the fire. I never wanted Cresson at that feast. He'd angered me, yes. He'd given me bad counsel, but I did not want him dead. I'd hoped he might be granted a few years of ease and comfort. He'd earned that much at least, but he ground his teeth together. But he died, and Pylos served me ably. Yes, in a way, it was his fault.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's funny that he does not exactly tell us, or he kind of does, of why he did not want him at that feast.
Yep.
And as soon as I never wanted Crescent at that feast, he angered me. Yes, he given me bad counsel.
Well, and you can see that in their interaction where he tries to prevent them. Lady Thistle equals mind blower. Lady Thistle blushes.
Like these live streams, especially you, always give me some goosebumps at certain points in the chapter. I get those a couple of times every book club when it comes to some of the stuff that Lady Thistle points out or brings up. I'm like, it's like the bird call mind drop. She does it all the time.
Which one of them is it that calls him the Stannis Inquisition?
What's that?
Was that Lizzie or was it Lizzie or Lady Thistle that refers to the Stannis Inquisition?
Do not.
Why don't you own up to that so I can credit you in the future because I really like that. Anyway. There was a phrase at the end. How did it go? Done in the light of the Lord? Yes, the king's jaw was clenched. Your people will mislike those words. As you did, said Stannis sharply. If you were to stay instead, done in the sight of gods and men, or by the grace of the gods old and new, have you gone to vow on me, smuggler? That was to be my question for you, my liege. Was it now? It sounds as though you love my new god no more than you love my new maester. I do not know this Lord of Light, Davos admitted, but I knew the gods we burned this morning. The smith has kept my ship safe, while the mother has given me 7 strong sons. Your wife has given you 7 strong sons. Did you pray to her? It was wood we burned this morning. So burning wood is burning gods, or at least the Asherim.
There you go.
Lizzie says she is the status inquisition. Okay, I gotta remember that. Lizzie is the originator. As our friend Lizzie says, the Spanish Inquisition. All right, got it. So anyway, what is burning gods, or at least the burning of the ashram? For more on the burning of the ashram, blah blah blah. Anyway, any god so monstrous as to drown my mother and father would never have my worship, I vowed. And King's Landing, the High Septon would prattle at me of how all justice and goodness flowed from the seven, while all I ever saw of either was made by men. If you do not believe in gods, why trouble with this new one? Stance broke in. I've asked myself as well. I know little and care less of God, but the Red Priestess has power. Stannis is purely practical. When I was a lad, I found an injured, goosehawk, and nursed her back to health. Proudwing, I named her. She would perch on my shoulder and flutter from room to room after me and take food from my hand, but she would not soar. Time and again, I would take her hawking, but she never flew higher than the treetops. Robert called her Weak Wing. He owned a gerfalcon named Thunderclap, who never missed her strike. One day, our great uncle Sir Harbert told me to try a different bird. I was making a fool of myself with Proudwing, he said, and he was right. Since Baratheon turned away from the window and the ghosts who moved upon the southern sea. The seven have never brought me so much as a sparrow. It is time I tried another hawk, Davos, a red hawk. So apparently this is actually typical behavior for this type of bird. So this was kind of silly.
Well, I mean, I actually feel sad for Stannis. I think that was actually a time in his life, where him as a person could have took it a different path. You know what I mean?
Yep. And he trained this bird. She says, Lizzie says 3, 4, 5, 6. Anyway. so anyway, the point is, this bird was able to do what it could, and that's how those birds fly. And yet he's like disappointed because it won't behave differently than that. I mean, so what if it doesn't go above the treetops? If it's able to actually bring him a sparrow?
Yeah, I mean, it can still kill a mouse or a rabbit or whatever. I mean,
not to mention that he's taken this bird that would not normally do this kind of thing and taught it to act like a hawk, like a trained hawk.
Well,
I mean,
it didn't.
Anyway,
it was all about the visuals of the hawking. That his bigger and bolder and braver, well, maybe not braver, but bigger and bolder older brother had a bolder. I mean,
that is part of his problem, right? Is that he doesn't pursue the things that give him the appearance of power, and so therefore he needed to do this sort of thing.
Well, I think that Robert had a part in what kind of a person Stannis was. Robert being so big and so bold that maybe younger. Proudwing, maybe earlier, Stannis might have tried to be like his older brother Robert and failed miserably at it because Robert was such a big and bold character that he chose to be the teeth grinding, strictly by the book. I won't have any of Robert's joy. So sorry.
I'm laughing because Stannis is basically me. Anyway.
When I was younger, I was Robert. That's all I gotta say.
No, I'm the middle of three brothers, and
I think everybody's a little bit of each one.
Yeah, I'm the middle of three brothers, and my older brother's less than 2 years older than me, and my younger brother's quite a bit younger.
I agree with Lindsay. That's when he started grinding his teeth.
Yeah,
I'm surprised he's got any teeth left now. No,
I got that problem too, by the way. I got that problem too. My dentist says I need to wear a night guard because I grind my teeth too much.
Well, my wife wants to put a weasel in my mouth because I sleep with it wide open, snoring like crazy.
Well, Theon is next. Theon and Clash is the worst. But at least you can laugh at how ridiculous he is, I suppose.
There you go. All right, that was actually a really good chapter.
Oh yeah, and it's important to revisit that prophecy occasionally, right? To remember the exact words and really understand the.
Well, it's like hearing you read it is different than me reading, because I read out loud to get more into it. It's easier for me to pick things up if I verbally say it instead of reading it in my mind, moving my finger and everything. But hearing it out loud from you reading it, the "you're on" thought popped in my head, and it had never popped in 12 years. I'd never even thought about that. Granted, it might not be nothing, and it might not go anywhere, but it's still another take on something that you've read repeatedly, because it's one of those that it's like the House of the Undying. It's one of those that you repeatedly go back and reread, or it's repeated like other stuff, or it's repeated throughout the book, so you see it all the time.
Well, there actually was a shrug in there. Did you catch that? He's not one to shrug. So anyway, within the Forging of Lightbringer, he actually says he's not one to shrug, right? I noticed that just because I was so obsessed with the shrug.
The other shrug, the other shrug. Something called Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's about, but I just thought.
Yeah, well, the concept of Atlas, well, it's a ridiculous right wing.
Is that the one that has all the different parts? Is that the one that had Tom Hanks and Halle Berry and? Am I thinking of the right one?
They made a movie, but I didn't see the movie, so I couldn't tell you.
I did see the movie, so yeah.
But anyway, it's so the concept of Atlas Shrugged is that if the rich people stopped doing their thing, that the world would fall apart, which is kind of bogus. I would argue that the whole world that is a lot more about government organization. People realize that all transportation is public transportation. That the cost for me to go from here to anywhere is the cost of the road, not the cost of the vehicle or the fuel. In fact, there's the incremental cost of taking a subway or a bus is near zero, and they usually are charged a fee for that, to the point where I don't understand how that isn't considered more private transportation than the road is, considering how much of the cost of the road, and how much more wear I put on it than my energy costs justify, and so forth. So it's anyway. The point is that libertarians are actually very ignorant of how the world works, and it's a particularly ignorant book. But the concept is that of Atlas Shrugging is that if the people who are holding up the world just gave up, the world would collapse, right? So being a hero is not for him to shrug and go in search of excellent grapes such as these. So the other shrugged is basically like saying that he's the sort of person that would give up on things. And so maybe in a sense, the other shrugged is like a clue that he's going to give up on Stannis.
That's a nice little take on it.
Yeah. Well, no, you got me thinking that what is the point of the shrugged, and being a hero is not for him to shrug. And you're right. It's Atlas. That's what it's about, right? It's about the idea that you're not allowed to shrug, that you have to, the hero has to do his job no matter how hard it is in order to save the world.
Stop and think how that would read from day one of Davos. The man is so devoted to Stannis. It's not every time you hear how much he owes this man. This is his God, talking about Stannis. And then to come on in the later books, whether it's Winds or Spring, to turn his back. And it might come after the burning of Shireen. That might be a bridge too far. You see Davos just completely, which might be when he starts helping Jon once he's resurrected, and you get a little bit more of the show kind stuff going on.
By the way, it really should be Stannis doing that, by the way, and without it being tricked into doing it. It really should be Stannis making that decision, both because he's supposed to be echoing the Mad King and going a step too far and trying to sacrifice innocence to
it would make more sense if Stannis did it.
And that would because definitely the concept of sacrificing you're the one person you truly love, and he doesn't really love his wife. He loves his daughter.
Sacrifice would be what would send Davos against.
Yeah. You could easily see him killing him if it's supposed to be a Mad King parallel. Then you could easily see Davos being as the one most loyal to him, essentially killing him to stop it. potentially.
You gave me goosebumps. That was actually freaking awesome.
Yay!
That was I like where that conversation went. See, this is what I talk about conversations. It's something that we weren't even talking about, and then boom, one word.
Well, I'm glad we got to that shrug. That was bothering me that we didn't have any theory as to why it was the other shrug, and then we kind of talked through it, and it's like yeah.
But
So
Davos replacing the Kingslayer in this situation is, I mean, I swear that made the whole live stream for me right there. That was freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. And of course I think that the point of Jaime is that he's supposed to be echoing Davos, right? With the hand cut off versus the fingers cut off, and we've seen Theon vows that he's going to kill the Stark boys, and then he kills the Stark boys and brings back their bones, and Tywin vows he's going to kill the Mountain, and he kills the Mountain and sends his skull to Dorne, and Manderly vows that he's going to kill Davos, and he kills Davos, and he hangs up his skull in his hand, right? And proves it, right? And so take the sword and slay the Kingslayer. And I still don't understand how people can see Catelyn be adamantly opposed to trials for Tyrion, be adamantly opposed to trial by combat, not give a trial to Merrick Frey, not give a trial to Podrick Payne, not give a trial to Hyle, not give a trial to Brienne of Tarth. And yet they're absolutely convinced that she's going to give a trial to Jaime Lannister and allow him trial by combat, when she even tried to over and over again and always kept saying it's not too late to call off this ridiculous idea of trial by combat. Trial by combat's ridiculous. You need to call it off, right? It's so against her character, and I don't understand why all of the analysis out there says that's what's going to happen. I'm like, they just see the parallels of the siblings, and I see the parallel to Davos.
I'd never thought about it that way. That's another one of those freaking good ones. Yeah. See, in my mind, I'm more in love of the idea of the trial by combat.
Well, that's why people won't listen to me. That's why people won't listen to me, because they've fallen in love with that idea and they won't actually stop and think through.
Yeah, Jaime gets Oathkeeper back. He draws it with his left hand. Now he's fighting with Valyrian steel, and he's as good as he ever was. That fantasy of that image, that gave me goosebumps too. The image of Jaime fighting with Oathkeeper and being as good as he used to be, with his newfound honor that he had, it is the orgasm on the page that everybody is looking for.
Wants to see, yeah.
That wants to see.
And once they got that image in their head, they refuse to see what's actually going on with the characters.
I mean, George R. Martin says he is a gardener when it comes to writing. I say he's a fisherman, because he will hook you and drag you where he wants to take you. And it oh my goodness.
Yeah, I need to submit. I need to figure out how you submit things to Preston for his fanfic, and just to tell him, no, dude, this is not what's happening. I love you guys. I have to hop off for my kids' college fair. See you at book club.
Yeah, we got to cut it short too.
Yeah. The way I see it, she's going to give Brienne the trial by combat. If you want to live, kill the man you love. There was never any way Jaime was leaving this alive, in my opinion.
I can see that happening. I got nothing to go against it.
I think she's going to bring bones that are not Jaime and bring the golden hand. And then he's going to be at the Quiet Isle, and he's going to be the dead man at the Quiet Isle, because then he's echoing Davos. But that's my opinion.
I didn't ever think about that either. All right. But we're running out of an hour here. So
yeah, we need to go. All right.
Yeah, it's Friday. Lady Thistle, Lizzie, I appreciate it. The Valonqar, when you watch it, we do appreciate it. It is Friday. Coming up, I got some bad weather here with cold, and there's a cold front coming through the United States. Please be careful. I know, Lady Thistle, hope your leg's doing better. Hope your husband's doing better. Hopefully you don't get a bunch of snow, and we will see you. What day of the week next week aren't you able to do?
Monday and Wednesday I can do. It's Friday that I'm going to be.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you. We'll see you Monday with Theon. Yeah. Everybody stay healthy and good, and we will see y'all. Have a good weekend.
That's good.
Bye.
You too. Bye.